Okay, so if you're given information of this kind, I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so if you see this column B, there is information concerning date, where we have the month, date, and year arranged in that order. But that information, that column, the dates are having a problem. How can we know that the dates are not correctly written? There is a formula that we can use to identify if our date is correctly written or is it in the correct format. So what you do is, for you to know whether your date is written in the correct format, you simply use the year formula. So you activate your cell from anywhere, then you write year, click the tab button, then serial. So serial, you pick now the date, any date in this column here. Let's pick this one and see. Close your bracket. You're able to see it is giving us a value error. So that one means our date is not in the correct format. So tip number 1, when you write your dates in Excel, whatever separates the date, month, and the year should not be that dot, but it should be a slash or a space hyphen between the three. It should be an hyphen or a slash between the three. So what do we do to ensure that now we introduce an hyphen or a slash between the date, month, and year so that we get the correct format? So the first thing that you do is you highlight where your data is, and we also agreed yesterday or in our previous classes that the shortest way to highlight your data without scrolling your information the whole day is simply place the cursor where you want to start. You want it to start from. You hold Control and Shift together, then you click the page down arrow. It will highlight the entire worksheet. So you want to move to replacing. So if you are at home here, to your right hand side, the last thing to your right hand side, we have Find and Select. So you click there, go to Replace. So you click there and the menu pops up. Then after that, we have Find, then we have Replace. So it is there at Replace. Then what do we want to find? We want to find the full stops that are there and replace them with a slash. So we want to replace all within that area. So we have done the replacement. So having done that, you close this menu here. Close that menu. And you are now able to see that your dates have the hyphen between them. So we are now going to use our formula again to confirm if our date is in the correct format. From anywhere, you activate your cell, you write here, click the tab button. Our serial is in dates here. Just pick any of them, then you enter. So this time around, it is giving us 2014, which means if we use the year formula, and from this information, we are able to extract the year from this date. Therefore, that one confirms that our date is now in the correct format, and we can now proceed to work it out. So that's the first thing that you do to test if your date is in the correct format. And from this date here, I want us to extract several things. Before we do what we want to do, I want us to see how you can work out with this date. Let's say somebody has asked you to give them the total items that were there in a specific day. So first thing that you do, we can, from this information here, we can extract month. We can extract month. 2, we can extract day. That is the day of the week. Was it on a Monday? Was it on a Tuesday? Was it on a Thursday? We can also extract a specific date, just date the way it is. We can extract date whereby, let's say it is 1st, 2nd, 3rd from this information. The way it is, you are not able to identify which one is the date, which one is the month. But by use of this, you will be able to extract and know which one is the date. Okay, in terms of month, we can get the months in terms of values, that is 1 to 12, whereby 1 represents January, or we can get the specific name. If it is January, then it indicates January. If it is February, it indicates February. If it is December, it will not give you 12, but it indicates December. That's what you want to do here. The day of the week, if it is Monday, automatically it gives you Monday. If it is Saturday, the same, it should give you Saturday as the day. So let's see what this one will give us. So first of all, you want to use the formula of getting the number only, whereby 1 represents January. So you activate your cell, then you type month, you click tab button. The item that is required there is serial number. It's just where the date is. So you simply click there, enter. Then you autofill. And from our previous classes, we said you don't just come here and drag your cursor as you autofill. You simply place it there. Once the black plus appears there, you double click and it automatically fills it downwards. So if you are able to see, you will see that these ones are only in the month of January. That is what we have there. It is in the month of January. Let's see. If we check down, also all these items took place in the month of January. Okay. I want us to make it. Let's look at, that is January. So we want this month here, this time round, not in symbols, but now in letters. If it is January, let it be January. So you activate your cell, then you say text. It appears there, you click that text. So the value, where is the value from? Our value is now this date here, comma. And since we want to get the month, this is the secret for these things here. If you want to get the month and it is in words, not in numbers, you bring in now the special treatment. So you bring the opening quotation mark, then you type M 4 times. You type M 4 times and you close your quotation mark, then you close the bracket, then you enter. By doing that, you will now see it gives you January. So that's how you do it. I want us to change this one here to be, let's say it is February. That is 02. What will we have? You see it is now changing to February. What if we change this one here to be 09? Will it really be September? Yes, it is September. What if we change this one here to be 12? Will it really be December? Yes, it is December. So the first formula was just giving us the number. And we all know that the month starts from 1 to 12, where 1 represents January. But this other formula here is now helping us to get the specific month. If it is December, then it should indicate December. If it is September, it should not tell us 9. No, it's just tell us it is the month of September. So that's how you use the number, the formula of month to get number. That's 12, which represent December. But you use the formula of text to help you get the specific month in words. So let's see the day. The day will now be whether it is Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So you simply activate your cell. And since you want these things to be in words, you use text, click your tab button. Our value is the date, where the date is, comma. Our format, text. For month, we typed M 4 times by giving it a special treatment. For the day, we are going to use D and give it a special treatment. So you simply bring your opening quotation mark, you type D 4 times. Then you close your opening quotation mark, then close that bracket, enter. If you enter, it will tell you that on 1st of December 2014, it was on a Monday. 1st December of 2014 was on a Monday. What about 1st of September 2014? Let's see. 1st of September 2014 was also on a Monday. What about 1st of January 2014? 1st of January 2014 was on a Wednesday. And 1st of February 2014 was on a Saturday. That's how we use the text formula to help us get the day. What about date? The specific date. You activate your cell. Activate your cell. Then you say day. Click your tab button, serial number. Our serial number is this one here. So that one is now giving us the date. These ones are now giving us the dates. So the dates were here, 1st of September. Let's change and see what will happen. Let's say this one is not 1st, but it is 5th of. So if we change this one to be 5th, it changes, the day changes to be Friday, but still December, and the date is now 5th. Let's change this date now to be 10th of September and see what is happening. If we change that to be 10th of September, 10th of September was on a Wednesday, and the date is 10th. What if we change this one here to be 15th of January? What if we change this one here to be 15th of January? What will we have? So 15th of January was also on a Wednesday in the month of January. So that's how we get day. That's how we get month, day, and date. What about year? How can we get year? How can we get year? So you activate your cell. I think the year formula we have just used when we were testing if our date is correct. So the first thing is to use year. You click that. Then you click the date, enter. You have 2014, so that is the year. That is the year. So you can see we have 20. But what about the last row? So you can see we have 2016, 2015 also appearing somewhere there. That's how you get your year using that formula. What about if you want it to appear again? We can also use the other formula to help us get the same thing. That is activate your cell. You click text. The value is here, comma. Then format now is to bring the special treatment, that is opening quotation mark. Then you close your bracket. If you do that, it also gives you the same thing.
This meeting is being recorded.
Are we together? Have you seen how we can come up with the year, day, and month? So that's what we normally do. So what if you have been now told to take this thing to the original state where it was? So we want to take it back to where it was. So you activate your cell, write date. The first thing that is required is here. Let's pick this one here, comma. Our month is this one here, comma. And our day is this one here. So for you to have day there, you must now write it in numbers. So we are not going to pick this day, but we are going to pick the date here, the day. Sorry. So you see, if we pick the day that is in Word, it is not accepting. We now pick the day that is in, and even the month, it will not accept the month because it is in, because it is in Word. So we pick that. And if you do that, you will be able to get. So if you want to take it back, you do all in numbers. Remember, these are special characters. So your Excel will not take the special character if you do it directly. That's why it is rejecting that. So you now pick the numbers. That is, you do away with this column here. You do away with this one here. Then we have these ones here. So if you now use month, day, and year, and you autofill, let's say up to that point, you'll be able to see that whatever is in this cell here is the same as what was in the original cell for the dates. Are we all moving together? Are we all moving together? Are we together so that we proceed to something else? Confirm if we are together. Okay, so that's what I wanted to remind us of, how to deal with the dates. And let's also see something here before I complete it. Let me do away with these columns here. And also we said for you to delete the columns, you can simply highlight there, hold Control, then you click the subtraction sign. So the subtraction sign will automatically delete your columns. Up to that point. So I want us to get the last day of that month, the last day of that month in each cell, the last day of the month of these dates here in each of the cells. So you activate EO, end month. Our start date is here, comma, months. If we want for that current month, we write 0. If you want for the next month, we write 1. If you want for the next 2 months, we write 2. So let's see, we want for the current month, that is 0. So let's put 0 there and see. If you do that, it gives us this one here. And this one does not mean that you are wrong. The only thing that has happened is that we've not formatted it. So you move to this bar here, up there, and you'll be able to see, you click there. So you'll be able to see that we have general, number, currency, but what we want is date. So we can pick this one here and have our date there. So the last day of that month, which is in this cell, which is December, is 31st. What about the last date of this month of September? Let's try and see. The last date of September is 30th. What about January? It is 31st. Let's do up to this point here. What about if we change this month here to May? Let's change that month to May. So the last day of my May is 31st. So that's how we get end month of these dates that are here. So what if somebody says that, would you please tell me the last, would you please tell me the last date of the next 2 months? From that specific date, will you please tell us the last month of the next 2, the last date of the next 2 months? So you simply write, you activate your cell EO, click that. Start is this one here, comma. So you want the last date of the next 2 months. Let's pick the next 1 month before we move to the next 2 and see the part of it. So if you are now keen enough, you'll be able to see that the month that is here is December and the next month is January. So the last month, the last date of the month of January is 31st of January 2015. The last date of the next month here, the next month will be October and the last date is 31st. In this case here, the last month, the current month is January and the next month is February. So the last date of the next month is 28th of February. So that's how you also get end month from your data there. I think that is enough for dates and the formatting of dates and so on and so forth. So let's now move to the topic of the day, believing that we are all moving together. So for us to cover the topic of the day, what we want to do here is to prepare income statement. We want to prepare an automated income statement. And this income statement is going to be an automatic, such that if we change anything here, then it automatically reflects in our income statement. So let's start. For you to now prepare the automated income statement, we have to use two concepts here. One, we are going to use some ifs. Two, we are going to use mapping concept. Is there someone who is not conversant with some if formula? Is there someone who is not conversant with the sum if formula, so that I run a reminders for just few minutes?
Kindly go through some ifs.
This meeting is being recorded.
So for us to prepare our income statement, there's this, we have to create another sheet here and maybe call it income statement. Income statement. So the first thing that we need to do is to introduce two columns. So we have to add two columns to this our data. So the first column should be between data and financials. So how do we introduce a new column? That's now obvious. You simply place your highlight there, Control Shift together, then you click plus, it automatically gives you that. So our first column here is year. Our first column is year, and our next column is mapping. So we want to use mapping concept to help us get this information. So having done that, we want to validate, or we want to filter our title. We want to filter these titles. How do we filter the titles? You highlight all of them, these ones here. You move to data. Then there's this item that looks like a funnel, so you click there. Then the titles now changes and it now has something of that's the drop down menu. So if you check there, you'll now be able to see something of that kind. If you check here, it is empty, it is not having anything. If you check here, that's what we have. If you check here, these are what we have. So that's the first step that we do. So the next thing that we want to do is to pick only years from this data here. Can someone remind us on how we can just extract years from this date here? Is there someone who can remind us on how to extract extract year from this date? If you can recall, which formula can we use to extract year from that date? There are two formulas that you can use, if you can recall. And we've just covered them now. Okay, we are supposed to use year function. So you activate your cell here, click that, then the serial number is now the date itself. You enter. And if you enter, this is what appears. How can we correct that? Keeping in mind this formatting style that is up here. There's something that you're supposed to do here so that we correct that. What should we do? We simply move to this place, and this time around we want year. So we want number. Just pick number or general. So if you pick number, it gives you 2014. That's the year. but then we don't want the decimal places to be there. So we reduce the decimal places by clicking these zeros here. If you see the one that is pointing to the right, reduces the number. The other one that is pointing to the left increases the number. So you reduce the number to 0. That is it. So what do we do to autofill it? You simply do that, and we have now autofilled our years up to the last point. So the next thing that you do, that is formatting our information here. That's the first thing that we do. So the next thing that we are going to do is mapping. We want to map whatever is here to this column here and do away with the duplicates. So what do we want to do? If you are preparing your income statement, there's an item that always appears first. If you prepare your income statement, which information appears first? Do we start with cost of goods? Okay, that's good. Or do we start with operating expenses? Or do we start with the depreciation and amortization or taxes? So somebody is reminding us here that we are supposed to start with revenue. So we want to start doing our mapping by picking the revenue. So you move to this part here. If you click here, you use the text filter. So we want revenue. So if you can see, we have revenues, those that were from retail and even supermarkets. So long as it is revenue, we want them to be combined together for that specific year. So if you have revenue from more than 1 point, as you can see, and they all belong to one specific year, then we should get summation of all of them. So having seen that, and all of them have been highlighted, so you click OK. If you do that, you will be able to see that only revenues are appearing there, irrespective of where they were from or even the year that they were earned. They are all revenue. So we want these revenues to be combined together and give them a common name. We can give them a common name by maintaining the name revenue, or even now call it sales. So let's say we have sales. So all of them, irrespective of the place, when we are doing our data, we expect it to be called sales, irrespective of the place. So we now autofill that name. And it's, so anything in the name of revenue in our data will be summed up under sales. So that is the first thing. From sales, we should move to something else. So having done that, you just leave it that way, move back to your data. And this time around, after sales, for us to get gross profit, of course, we have to look for cost of goods sold. And if you do that, it also appears there. So you click that, and whatever appears here is only cost of goods sold. What name do we want it to appear with in our income statement? Of course, cost of goods sold. So having seen that, we want that name to come on all of them. So that is what you do. So all of them will be cost of goods sold. The next item after cost of goods sold is supposed to be, if you can see here, we have depreciation and amortization, we have interest expense or cost of capital, we have operating expenses. So the next thing that we are supposed to look for here is operating expenses. Operating expenses. You click OK, and all the operating expenses appear there. We can also give them a name, that is selling and selling and distribution expenses, whereby we have the salaries of the sales reps, So let's say we have selling, and distribution, selling and distribution expenses. So that is the name that we want them to appear with in our income statement. We do the same, but this, it is only with the exemption of this data, where if you double click, if you have your first formula here and double click, this is what is happening. It will give you the last item that you entered there. Remember, the last item that we entered here was cost of goods sold. So if you double click for you to autofill, this is what will be appearing there, the last item that you enter. So for this, I would really love us to have an exemption whereby we just drag your cursor and autofill it. So let's go away with that. So our operating expenses in our income statement, we want them to appear as selling and distribution expenses. That's what we want them to be called in our income statement. So from operating expenses, there's something else that we are supposed to move to, which is called depreciation and amortization. And in this case, it was written D and A. So if you check here, it is also just the single item that has been highlighted. So you click OK, then they all appear there. So which name do you want them to have there? You can give them a single name, that is depreciation. Depreciation, sorry. You want them to be called depreciation only. So you simply autofill it there. That is the name. Our next item after depreciation is supposed to be interest expenses. So interest expenses appear there, and this interest expenses is automatically the cost of capital. So you can write it the cost of capital or interest expense. If you like, also you can change the name, interest expense, then you autofill it. The next item after interest expense that I've also seen here, there is something called tax that is supposed to be paid to the government. There's taxes there. Okay. So the taxes, we can decide to retain the name or give it another name. So let's say these ones are called taxes. And that's what we have there. How will we confirm that we have picked everything that was here? So you come back here, having believed that you have done everything, or you've picked all of them and mapped them. Whatever you were doing was mapping. So we pick them from here and map them. We pick them from here and map them. So we move back and now select all. We move back and select all. Let's see. If you select all, whatever is here should also be this side, but it is going to be this side with the name that you gave it. For example, anything in the name of revenue, we gave it a name called sales. So irrespective of the place, so long as it is called revenue here, it is going to be called sales. Whatever was written as cost of goods sold, irrespective of the place, we have given it a name to be cost of goods sold without the abbreviations. D and A, which was a depreciation and amortization, we've given it a name called depreciation. That one is what is its name. Taxes, we've maintained the name to be taxes. So anything in the name of taxes that is here will remain to be taxes, irrespective of the place or year. So if, let's say, you had omitted something here, for example, you forgot and did not map taxes, If you now select all the way we have done, you could have seen that, yes, you have taxes here, but it is not appearing here. This cell could have been empty. That one will tell you that as you are doing your mapping, you are not able, to map that item. That's why if it is here and this cell here of mapping is empty. But if whatever is here, it is having a word that is there against it in the column of mapping, then it means we have highlighted or we have mapped everything. So there's no any cell that is empty here. So it means we have mapped everything. We have picked all that was supposed to be there. We are now moving to another step and to another sheet of preparing our income statement. Before I proceed, if there's someone is lost on the way.
This meeting is being recorded.
So whatever we were doing is called mapping. We were mapping whatever is here to appear here in the name that we so prefer. So the next thing that you're supposed to do is now to prepare our income statement. So how do we then now move from this sheet by the name source to income statement? It is very simple. Let me change the name of this one here to make your work easy. PL. So having done that and confirmed that we've mapped everything there, you highlight the entire column F where your mapping is. You highlight the entire column F, then you copy. Where do you want to paste it? We want to paste it in this sheet called P and L. You can place it anywhere, so let's place it here. We paste. It has been pasted. But if you are now keen enough, you will be able to see that there's a lot of duplicates. There's a lot of repetition of things, like cost of goods appearing here more than one times. And we are only interested in them to appear there just one, so that if you were to fill our formula, it should only have one cost of goods sold. So how did we agree that we are supposed to remove the duplicates? How are we going to remove the duplicates? If you can recall, how are we going to remove the duplicates? How are we going to remove the duplicates? So the duplicates are removed by, once you highlight that entire column the way you've highlighted it, you move to data. Then there is this key here called remove duplicates. You click it, it tells you, it is asking you, is your data having headers? Yes, it has. Our first item there is a title, so we give it OK. Then you click OK. So having that, it has removed the duplicates. It has removed all the duplicates, and we are now only having the special items that we had. So if you can recall, we only had sales, cost of goods sold, selling and distribution expenses, depreciation, interest expense, and taxes. So this is the route to preparing our income statement. That's the first step. By picking whatever was here, taking it to this place, doing away with the duplicates, that is the first step. Our next step is, as we've seen, how will we confirm and know the number of years that are there? You simply come and click anywhere, either this part or this one here. Let's click here and see. If you see here, you are only having how many years? 3. That is 2014, 2015, and 2016. So that one will now give you an hint, such that if you come to this part here, you will know that your information will be for the 2014, we'll prepare for 2015, and for 2016. That is how we are going to prepare your income statement for 3 years. So this one here can change. We can now change it to be details. So after sales, we're supposed to have cost of goods sold, then the difference. So we now insert an additional row, or even before inserting an additional row, we can decide to put the formulas first. Then as we adjust those additional rows, we'll be able to see what is supposed to be there. So before we bring in the additional rows, I want us to now autofill the formulas and bring them here. The formula that we are now going to use, the first step was mapping. Remember, the title of our file is called mapping and P and L. So the first thing that we did was mapping. Then the next part is now preparing the P and L. And in preparation of the P and L, we want to get, I want somebody to guess. In the preparation of the P and L, we want to get the summation of sales from this data source. We want to get the summation of the sales from this data source. Is there someone who has an hint of the formula we are going to use here? If you can recall the formulas that we've been learning in our previous classes. Okay. I can see another person. If you can recall the formulas that we've been learning from our previous classes. Which formula are we going to use to help us get the summation of the sales here, summation of the cost of goods here, and it must meet a condition, that is, it is sales and it was also done in 2014. Okay, I can see we are good to go. So a point of correction, sum if is only used for one condition, that is one criteria, but some ifs will help us to get more than one criteria. So let's see if we have one criteria or 2 or 3. Our first thing that we want to know is, what is the total for 2014? What is the total amount? Remember, we have the dates here and the years here. So we want total amount. Our first condition is we want to get the total amount of anything for 2014. We have amounts here and the year that's corresponding to them. Can we get the total amount for 2014 only? Yes. That is the first criteria that we want. That is the first criteria, getting a total amount for 2014. But if we come here, we have another column here, column C, where we have sales. And we also want to get the total amount for these items called sales. So we have sales here more than one times, and they have amounts that are also corresponding to them. Can we also get the total amount corresponding to sales? Yes, we can get. That one, therefore, informs us that we have more than one criteria. So in this case, we cannot use some if until we get the answer. If we were only looking for the total amount for 2014, we could have used some if only, because we only have one criteria. But in this case, we want to get total amount for 2014, and it must also be for sales. So we have more than one criteria. Let's now proceed and see. So we activate our cell. Then we write some ifs. Click your tab button. The first thing that is required is sum range. Where is our sum range? Our sum range is in the source data. Our sum range is, we want to get the amounts here. So we want to highlight the whole of this part. So you simply place your cursor there, hold Control and Shift together, click the page down arrow to get that part. Then you fully $reference it by holding Fn, then F4. We have done that. Let's move back to our P&L. What is the next item that is required after writing the sum range? The next item that is required is criteria 1 range. And our criteria 1 range is the year. Where are we going to find the years? Where are the years found? We move back to this data and we move back to this data and check where are we going to have the years. So the years are in this column where we have 2014, 15 up to 16. So you highlight the whole of this criteria 1 range, Control Shift, page down arrow, and since that range will not change, it is the same range that you want to refer from, you also fully $reference it, comma. So they now need criteria 1. We have picked the sum range, we have picked criteria 1 range, and now they need criteria 1. Based on our criteria 1 range, which is the years, where should we now pick our criteria 1 from? Our criteria 1 is 2014. That is where our criteria 1. And remember, we are now going to fill or autofill our formula horizontally or towards the right hand side. And as we autofill our formula, we expect this formula to be uniform to all the cells depending on where they are. Therefore, we have now to consider where are we going to place our $sign at. This row here is our title row. So as we autofill our formula, either horizontally or vertically, we should not move away from that title row. Therefore, we should lock our row, our title row. Having that concept of cell referencing from our first day lesson, can someone remind us where we should place our $sign if we are interested in locking our title row only? If we want to place a $sign to lock our title row before 3, okay? Another trial. We have to place our $sign before 3, which means we are going to lock 3. And what does this 3 represent? 3 represent the row. 3 represent the row, but the numbers, the letters represent the columns. So we want to lock our title row, which is row 3, and therefore place our $sign before 3. So we are now done with criteria 1. We are going to criteria 2. Criteria 2 is now, we've now taken care of criteria 1, whereby we want total amount for the year 2014, 15, and 16. But then we have been given another condition, that is sales. Yes, we have total amount, but it must be only sales. So what do? We now again move to criteria 1 range, which is where will we find these sales. We move back. Between these columns, can someone try and tell us which column are we going to pick to be our criteria 2 range so that we find these sales, cost of goods sold? Can someone try? Which column are we going to pick? Okay, I can see one response. Another person, which column are we going to pick so that we take the range of criteria 2? We are supposed to pick this column here. If you can recall, when we move back to this place here, we have sales, cost of goods, and depreciation. And if you check here, we change the name of these items here to suit what we wanted here. So that is why we have revenue, but we don't have sales here. We have sales in this column. So whenever you are doing mapping, if you are doing mapping and you've done this, when you are now looking for the criteria, the next criteria, you must now pick from the mapping column. This is where we have the range of our criteria 2. So you place your cursor there, Control Shift together, click the page down arrow, fully dollar reference it, hold Fn, click F4, comma, our criteria 2 itself. Where are we going to find our criteria 2? Our criteria 2 is now the sales. And this time round, we also want to autofill our formula horizontally. And as you are going to autofill your formula horizontally, it will be changing, moving from column C to column D as you fill your formula in column E. So there is something that you're supposed to do to column C, such that even if you autofill our formula up to column E, then it will still refer to column C. That is, we should dollar reference our column C, since it is our title column. And if column C is our title column, where should we place our dollar sign? Talk to me. Where should we place our dollar sign so that we dollar reference our title column? Okay, somebody is telling me that I should place my dollar sign before C, which means I'm now locking column C. Why? Because it is my title column. So having done that, we only add 2 criteria or 2 conditions to meet. So we close our bracket. Then you enter. And if you check, what are we having here? What are we having here? There is an error when we were picking our sum range. Our sum range is referring to this cell here. We made an error when we were picking our sum range. Our sum range should be this sheet here. Our sum range should be this sheet here, and it is this part here where our sum range should be. Control Shift, page down, hold Fn, then F4. That is where we should have our sum range. So having done that, our sum range was in this part here. But when we selected it, it should be the amount column. It is the amount column. This one here is the amount column. That's where we are supposed to get our summation from. So if we just make a mistake, then it will not give you the answer. That's why it was giving us 0, because it was referring to this E here in this P and L to be the sum range. So that's where we add that error. But now you can see our sum range is which sheet? That sheet of source, which is the sheet of E4 to E438. Then, so if you click here, you are able to see that is where the sum range ends. Criteria 1 range, that is where it is. Criteria 1 itself, it is that one there. Criteria, and if you can now see, our criteria 1 is D3. Remember, we have now locked our title row. If you check, criteria 2 itself is column C, and we have now placed our dollar sign before C. So if you enter like that, you are now able to see that is the total summation of sales in the year 2014. Then we autofill here. It gives you that. And then how do we now autofill the down ones? You place it there, then you double click, and you'll be able to see your total of the items with the corresponding. So the total taxations that were there for 2014, it was only 207.52. 2015, that is the value. 2016, 208.58. Depreciation, as you can see, that's how it appears there. So from here, we can now decide to make these ones here to be bold. Control B, having highlighted them. Okay, so from there, we want now to bring in the other rows that we were talking about. What are the name of these other rows? So between the sales and cost of goods, we are supposed to have a column there. What is the name of this column? If you can remember the structure of income statement, between the sales and cost of goods, we should have something by the name gross profit. We should have something by the name gross profit. Then after gross profit, before we move to depreciation, we should have earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Then you bring another one there. And what do we have there? We should have earnings before interest and taxes. Then after interest and taxes, we are supposed to have earnings before taxes. Then after taxes, we are supposed to have now earning after taxes, or the net profit or retained earnings. Okay. So how do we now adjust these items so that they comply with what we want? Of course, gross profit is equal to sales minus cost of goods sold. So you adjust and get your answer there. The other one, that is earning before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, is equal to gross profit minus selling and administrative and distribution expenses. So you also do the same. How do we get EBIT? EBIT is equal to earning before interest, depreciation, and amortization minus depreciation. What do? We make it to that point. Then this one also you do the same, that is EBIT minus interest expense or cost of capital. You do the same. Then the last one is now earning before taxes minus taxes itself. Then you now autofill. So you can now make these ones here. This one, the last one, to be bold. And we want to now bring a line that separates them. Like below cost of goods sold, we should have a line that tells us that is now summation. What do? We move and take borders. If we move and pick borders, we'll be able to. So you move to home, there's this borders. Where do we want to place it? We want to place it above. So let's see if we have that. Yes. So it helps us that after these two, we have a summation there. Then after these two also, we are going to have a summation here. After these two, we are going to have a summation here. After those, we also have a summation and also summation here. So you simply click there, it shows you. And this last one here, I want to give it a double underscore. How do I give it a double underscore? I simply come here and pick top and double bottom border. So it is now unique from those other ones, maybe indicating that it is the last one. So that's how you do it. So we are able to prepare our income statement for the year 2014, 2015, and 2016 with that information. And with this, you can also even bring now the table. You can now format it the way you want. For example, you can highlight the whole of this one here. How do we introduce a table? You hold Control, then click T. You hold Control, then click T. So what do? give it OK. By doing that, you are now able to have your financial statement in now a given format. We can even now change the name of this table here to call it income statement. So you simply, having placed your cursor anywhere on this table, you move to design, then to your left, you'll see it is written table 1. So I can give it a name, call it income statement. You can call it income statement. So that is the name of our table. So if you click here, you'll be able to see that the name has now changed. It is now not called table 1, but it is income statement. Okay, you can also say that you are not pleased with the color of the table, you want to change. Still, you just come here and you check which format do you want. Do you want this format? Do you want this one here? Do you want this one? Whichever format that you want for the table, you will be able to pick it from this place here. So that's how you prepare income statement. That is how you prepare income statement. Problem just right away.
This meeting is being recorded.
This one is called earning after taxes, and it is for that specific year of 2014. Remember, there's also something here called retained earnings. We have something called retained earnings. And this retained earnings is brought down. That is from the previous year. That is from the previous year. That retained earning is from the previous year. And another thing that we are now supposed to take to balance sheet is retained earnings carried down. How do we get this information? I want us to now see where we are going to link our income statement and our balance sheet. At this point here, this retained earnings brought down in this year, it is supposed to be that one from previous year. But in 2013, if we check our data source here, we had no retained earnings brought down anywhere. We had no retained earnings brought down anywhere. So which means we are supposed to write here in our first year, our retained earnings brought down is supposed to be 0. That is what is supposed to be there. Our retained earnings in the first year is supposed to be 0 because in our data source here, we were not given such kind of information. Neither were we given a note somewhere or an additional information to tell us that retained earnings brought down from 2013 was this amount. So since it is not there, we make it to be 0. Let's now come and see. And by doing that, remember this is not the end of our income statement. So we are supposed to remove this double underscore and replace it with this one here. Let me see if we can remove it. So you simply come here, make no border. Sorry, you make no border. Then you come and place now top. And this one here is what is supposed to now to have double underscore. You can even change it to that one now. So since we don't have balance brought down from previous year, in our first year of operation, we'll put it to be 0. But then what is now our retained earnings carried down that is supposed to go to balance sheet? It is going to be earning after tax or profit for the year plus retained earnings brought down. So we are supposed to have is equal to summation of this one and this one. We are supposed to have summation of profit for the year and retained earnings brought down. That is what we are supposed to have in our first year. In our second year of operation, we now know our retained earnings brought down. Remember, this carried down, it is for this year. But now, if we now move to the next year, that is 2015, whatever was there as carried down now changes to be brought down. So we write equal and now pick whatever is here. If you pick whatever is there, it is now going to be our retained earnings brought down. And being that it is having a negative, it automatically means it was a loss. So what do we do to get for 2016? For 2016, here. And how can we get what is here? It is the summation of this earning for the year plus retained earnings brought down. So this formula is summation of these two, and we drag it now to the right. If we do that, you will now see that this one here plus this one should give us 48.98. Why are we having 44.98 up here and it is also here? Because it is retained earnings brought down from our previous year of operation. So if you are now going to your balance sheet, you'll be preparing in the capital column, in the capital part where we are now going to put our capital. Remember, it is always capital and retained earnings carried down, or net profit. So our net profit is the profit for the year plus retained earnings brought down, and our retained earnings carried down now is this one. So this one here is what will be taken to the balance sheet. So when you take it to the balance sheet, let's say our balance sheet is there and this one is under capital, so financed by. Remember, I'm giving you an in so that there's a folder which I sent to you. You will be tackling it, and tomorrow we are going to take care of it. So I don't want to give you the entire thing because income statement, I've already covered it here fully. So I'm just giving you an hint on how they are going to link to each other. That's what we are supposed to now have here. So if you go to the column of financed by, where the first thing is capital, the first item will be capital, and the next item will be retained earnings carried down. That is what's supposed to come to our balance sheet. So this is our balance sheet. If this is our balance sheet, our under financed by, our retained earnings carried down, we simply activate our cell and now pick whatever is here. Then you enter. So having entered, you simply auto fill. So I want us to check this one here. I want us to copy this. Let me copy them and show you something just somewhere here. Let me paste the values only. I want you to see that if we change anything in our data source here, it will affect income statement and balance sheet. So let's say I want to make this one here to be 250. So it will increase our net income. Let's see. If we change it to 250, we are now able to see that sales has changed to 28.44. Why is it? Because, okay, whatever I've changed here is 250, but it is for 2015. I want us to change it for 2014 so that we see if it is doing away with that loss. Let's make it 2014 and see. Let's now move back. If you now move back, you are able to see that it is now no longer a loss. It is now retained earnings of 186.3. This is what we are supposed to take to our balance sheet. Let's see if it has updated. Yes, our initial figure was we had a loss of 63.7. but now we have retained earnings of 186.3 because we have now linked our balance sheet and income statement such that if there is any change from our data source here, then it automatically updates our income statement and our balance sheet. So that is the first part where income statement and balance sheet links together. So having seen that in that part, remember in our balance sheet, the first thing that you are going to start with is non-current assets or fixed assets. So under non-current assets, we'll have their cost here. We'll have their cost here, or even let's say this one is land. Sorry, let's say this one is building that is depreciating. We have land in most cases normally appreciate. So if you use land and you bring the depreciation, unless it is a quarry site. So, okay, so this is buildings and we have it at cost. That is the building at cost. And for us now to get net book value, we should have what we call accumulated depreciation. Then we have net book value. So how then do we come up with this? Our buildings, since buildings will be part of what is here, it is going to be part of what is in your data source here. The moment you give it a name here, that is building, and you autofill your formula. For example, this formula that I have extracted from that side, let's say we have this one, sales here. You want to copy that formula and bring it to this cell here, Control V. Are you seeing it is 0? Why? Because this item here was not appearing in our list there. What if I change this one to be sales? I want us to see that logical part of it. If I change it to be sales, then I have the value because it is what was reflected there. So if we now bring the formula and pick whatever was in your range here, it will automatically update. So that's how, if you have building will be appearing here with its value or its cost. Okay, that is the building. So let's say this is our building and we have 50,000. Let me see what we have for depreciation. Depreciation is 31. Okay, let's say we have 5,000. And since this one is at cost, we don't want it to, it is not going to change. So the cost will remain constant for the entire year. But now NPV will be changing by the effect of accumulated depreciation. If you check our data source here, we don't have accumulated depreciation provided anywhere. Is it true? Yes. So if it is not provided anywhere, and we all know that if we don't have accumulated depreciation at the beginning of the year, then the depreciation of that specific year becomes the accumulated depreciation. That is to say, since we don't have accumulated depreciation from our data source, then in this first year, our accumulated depreciation will be the depreciation expense in that specific year. So we come and pick this one here. So that is the depreciation expense in that specific year. What about the second year? So depreciation, accumulated depreciation in our second year will now be equal to accumulated depreciation from previous year, that is this one here. Then we add depreciation expense for this specific year, that is this one here. Then we now get accumulated depreciation for 2015. What about 2016? It is the same thing, that is accumulated of previous year plus depreciation expense for 2016. And since this second year has that formula perfectly, let's autofill and see. You simply bring it here, and it will be referring to 75 plus 41. So 75 plus 41, is it really 116? Yeah, what is it referring to? E24, which is 75, plus F9, which is 41. So that's how you have your accumulated depreciation, such that if you want your net book value, it is now going to be cost minus accumulated depreciation. Then you enter. So this one here is going to be the net value of the non-current assets. What if you say that this depreciation here was not supposed to be 3, instead it was supposed to be 15? What will happen? Let's see. So our depreciation has now risen to 43, and that change is being reflected here. Okay, if that is what we have there, then our second here will be this one plus this, which is giving us 87. 43 plus 60 plus 44 for that specific year is giving us 87. And if you can recall, in this column here, we had 116, but now we have 128 because there is adjustment that has been done from our data source. That is the second point where balance sheet and income statement links together. So if you make any change in the accumulated depreciation, it will be reflected there by that. So if you're not given accumulated depreciation in your data source here, you simply come and create it by use of this concept. Are we moving together? Are we all moving together? Are we all moving together? Are we all moving